welcome to the Bearhug Club, a pro wrestling podcast of positivity.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bearhug Club podcast. As always, Greg here, and I'm joined by Jace and Garrett. How's it going, my boys?
It's going pretty well.
It's going pretty well. Garrett's had a haircut, everyone. Let's just look how glorious it is. He's looking fly as hell. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Anyway. This week, we'll just get straight into things. It's been a while since we did a top 5. I think the last time we did it was for the Rumble, I believe. So we figured with WrestleMania coming up, why the hell not? Let's do a top 5 WrestleMania matches. How did you guys find putting this list together? Did you think it was quite easy, or was there a few struggled with?
I'm going to be honest, I still haven't got a top 5.
You're just going to wing it.
I've got a top 3.
You had the caveat that you can only pick one from each Mania, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a difficult one because there were some really good ones.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I got my 5, but I think the issue was then I kept remembering about other matches and thought, I should have put that one on there. So my honorable mentions list is pretty lengthy. So I think I could have easily swung a top 10 out of this, but I'm quite happy with the 5 I picked. So what I think we could do this time, because usually when we do these lists, we start with honorable mentions, and typically some of our choices are in there. So what I think we'll do 5 through to 2, then we'll do some honorable mentions, and then we'll go through number 1, if that sounds good to you guys.
Yeah.
Fantastic. For audio listeners, Garrett put his phone because he's eating a plate of pasta right now.
I'm done.
Good. Right, we'll just get things kicking off then. So I'll start with my number 5, and I went with Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston from WrestleMania 35. This is the only match that's one of the most recent WrestleManias, but for my money, definitely not only was the match solid, but I think ultimately it was just the build to it. The fact that Bryan was the champion and he was on this terrific heel run, and then out of nowhere, by pure, I guess, a bit of chance and accident, Kofi Kingston gets this massive wave of momentum behind him, and they managed to build upon something that had been, about 11 years in the making, when Kofi was last having a sniff at the main event. And it all just fed in perfectly. It's one of those, I do get a little emotional like wrestling, but this is one of the matches that really got me going. I was actually almost in tears when Kofi got the win. At the end of it, just the fact that the story was so well told and it was so well put together. It easily made my top 5, no problem there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, it's pretty solid. You say like the accident, and it was supposed to be Mustafa Ali in that position that Kofi took. So it really was just one of the times where they get the flash in the pan and they just go with it, which is always the best times in WWE and wrestling as a whole.
Yeah.
Where I genuinely was just like so surprised, and still am to this day, that we got the flash in the pan, and it was carried all the way through to the climax of the story. I mean, the ending of his reign, need to talk about, but that doesn't matter because it's like saying, it's like the Lord of the Rings trilogy being good and the Hobbit not being good. It's already happened. He already had the underdog story to winning the belt, so we're okay. We're all right.
You already kind of had that perfect story, which people aren't going to remember the end. They're going to remember how he got there, essentially. Sorry, Jace, what are you going to say?
Yeah, brilliant build. I really enjoyed the actual match and the aftermath, his reign as champion, especially when he got the revenge on Randy Orton.
Yes, yeah.
Defending the belt against him, even during one of the matches, Randy's on the deck. Kofi's there, stupid! got that moment back on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like Aaron said, I don't think anyone's going to remember the ending, which they shouldn't remember the ending. They should remember the journey, which was pure accident. He wasn't even meant to be in the Elimination Chamber or that gauntlet match. And just unfortunately, Mustafa Ali got injured.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But again, I don't think there was anyone apart from Kofi who could have taken that place, because you needed someone who was a reliable performer. And I think that was just what made everyone remember how good Kofi is when he's allowed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, fair enough, like it should have happened a lot sooner, but I feel like the era we're in now was probably the perfect time for it to happen to him, because obviously it was like 11 years ago and it looked like he was getting a hint towards the main event before it all got scuppered. I don't think he would have ever won the title back then, because it was still very much land of the big men in some regards. I think it was thanks to the whole, obviously, people like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan following 2011 and stuff that they could maybe believably put the belt on him. And I think he did well with his reign. I mean, it's not going to be one of the most remembered ones in terms of like the matches, but I think the story he got there and the fact he held it speaks volumes, to be honest.
Yeah.
Super. Garrett, do you want to take us through your number 5?
Turn your mic on.
Turn your mic on.
Sorry, guys. I was practicing my ventriloquism, but my dummy was in another room. You guys have kind of gone. I have a feeling you've gone for like some real big mainstays. I'm kind of going on the fringes a little bit.
Okay.
My number 5 is Zack Ryder at WrestleMania 32 or 3. I have it written down. Zack Ryder at WrestleMania 32 in the Intercontinental ladder match that he won. For me, a Mania match is about I hate to say it, but the Mania moment that it creates. And, Zack Ryder was ahead of the time in wrestling, especially in mainstream wrestling, with being on the internet and being an internet darling. He's definitely an internet darling with me. A woo. And the story they told and when he always spoke about the Intercontinental Championship, to me that felt like a WWE main belt win more than anything else. It was like you could just see in his face and even the match itself how good it was, just how much it meant. And then his dad joined him in the ring and everything. It was mwah.
No, absolutely. I think if there's one thing that WrestleMania certainly does best, is like those big ladder matches. And again, I think going in, I don't think anyone kind of expected Ryder to kind of walk away, because again, he's one of those people who's always had, despite the fans wanting the best for him, backstage he's never had the biggest supporters. So I think it's always surprising when he got moments like this. And you're right, I think this was obviously his like crowning achievement moment within, not just in WrestleMania, but within WWE.
Well, it's you look at I'm just talking about Zack Ryder there, but the match itself, you had Sami Zayn, who'd just come off his match the day before against Nakamura.
Yeah.
You had Kevin Owens, Sin Cara. Let's just call him Cody Rhodes. Let's not say what his alias was at the time. Cody Rhodes was in the match. And it was a very solid ladder match that ended in one of the best possible ways. I remember the crowd being pretty hot for Zayn at the time, and yet still, he was able to pull off that amazing babyface win. It was great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant match. Like Greg said, you can't beat a good ladder match at WrestleMania, especially the multi-men ladder matches. Whether it be for a title or the Money in the Bank when that was at WrestleMania. But yeah, Zack Ryder deserved so much better in WWE. He was great in the ring. He was great on the mic. Fans loved him. Just, it's one of them things, isn't it? But it is brilliant that he managed to get that WrestleMania moment that most people don't get.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people do not get that WrestleMania moment.
Exactly. Like a lot of people don't get it who probably do deserve one as well. To be honest, like looking at, I've completely forgot what was on that card, and looking at it, that was hands down the best match because it's the same year. It was Reigns and Triple H headlining, which we watched together. I remember, Jess. That was when you, me, and Scott watched it, and he fell asleep.
yeah. And then we go, oh, Reigns won. Did he?
Did he? That was a long night. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a long night. That was a slog.
Oof. And that was the Mania with Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose, which should have been better than what it was. Jess, take us through your number 5.
My number 5 is from WrestleMania 31, and it is also a ladder match. Ooh. It is Daniel Bryan beating Bad News Barrett, Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler, Luke Harper, R-Truth, and Cody Rhodes for the Intercontinental Championship. And again, much the same as what Garrett said, like brilliant ladder match at WrestleMania, controlled chaos. Ambrose getting powerbombed through the ladders by Luke Harper, fantastic. And then you got that moment of Daniel Bryan winning the title when everyone wanted him to go on, and because this was the year everyone wanted him to win the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And then they thought, oh, he's going to get added, going to be a triple threat. Didn't happen, so they gave him the Intercontinental title instead, which I think probably is the best thing they did that year, because you got the Rollins cash in, which is such an iconic moment. So yeah, I think Daniel Bryan winning that belt, I think it was the first time he won the belt as well.
Yeah, I think it might have been. I think that was when he made the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just elevated it even more. First time winning that belt, WrestleMania, opening match of WrestleMania if you don't count pre-shows. And brilliant way to start that Mania, which was really quite a good WrestleMania.
Yeah, I've got a lot of. I think the WrestleMania 31's quite decent in terms of, like, again, moments like this, and then the fact that it was Sting's debut. And I really like the main event. I think a lot of people. It's certainly the best, I think, between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns that they had. It was really hard hitting, and obviously the Rollins cashing at the end, which took everyone by surprise. I'd have to rewatch it again though, because I haven't watched it since I watched it live, and this is one of those WrestleManias where I was absolutely clattered by the end, like unbelievably clattered.
Most.
I'm not usually that bad. This one I was absolutely gone. I can just about remember bits of it at the end. But yeah, absolutely. I think that was probably one of my favorite like 6-man ladder matches that they did as well. Certainly, yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. Awesome. So taking it through to number 4. What did I put? I put Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart from WrestleMania 13. A bit of an obvious one, but it is an absolute classic. I mean, when you look back at like the history of WrestleMania, like I'd say after 10, between like I'd say 10 and 17, there aren't many good WrestleMania matches. Like it was just such a, even when the Attitude Era was taken off and it was getting that way, there still wasn't many good matches. But this is the one shining example of a really solid WrestleMania match. The match that kind of cemented Stone Cold Steve Austin as being and helping him on that rise to being an absolute monster in the WWE. Obviously, it was the famous double turn, which I don't think anyone's ever managed to successfully pull off again, even though everyone tries to do it, and there's just no topping the original. It's just impossible. But when you look back, it still holds up today. It's just incredible in-ring work. This was like, obviously, I think this might be prior to before Austin broke his neck, so it's still got a lot of like proper wrestling ability before you had to go a bit more brawler. So yeah, absolute standout. And of course, Bret Hart, he can wrestle anybody, and it could be a tremendous match.
Yeah, this match, this is in my honourable mentions. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this match was just people. Even if people don't remember what happened during the match, everyone remembers the finish.
Oh yeah,
Austin didn't tap out, and there's that the picture of his face in pain, blood. Like everyone knows that. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, chances are you've seen that photo. You've seen that image. And it was just such a big moment for the business with the double turn. Austin refusing to tap, like I said, and yeah, I don't think it could have been done any better. By
No.
any, you could have put the two of the best of all time, like any other like people who say, "Oh, they're the best of all time," and it would not have worked.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
And
totally agree.
especially what it led to with that's what made Austin strap the rocket to Austin, putting him up, and imagine where the wrestling world would be without Stone Cold.
Absolutely. I believe this is one of the rare matches Meltzer also gave 5 stars, and I'm pretty sure it might have been after this one. It wasn't until Punk and Cena at Money in the Bank that they next got a 5-star. So I think that for a lot of people that'll speak volumes as well. Cool. Jace, take us through your number 4.
My number 4 is John Cena versus Shawn Michaels.
All right.
Nice.
Which this for me, obviously at the time I was still am a big fan of John Cena, but this was the first match that I can remember seeing him where I was like, he can wrestle.
Yeah.
He's not just like everyone's like, oh, because this is about the time everyone's like, oh, it's just the 5 moves to do.
Yeah.
But this is where
it's 6 now. I'll have you know.
Yes.
Yeah, but at the time it was 5. And this was the first match I remember seeing him where like you can actually wrestle, you can actually go in the ring, and I think a lot of that is to do with Shawn Michaels. He's one of them who can have a great match with whoever, but also it shows Cena being able to keep up with Shawn.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and this was well deserved to be match of the year because it was the match of the year in WWE. Maybe they're matching on Raw, but this was definitely up there with one of the best WrestleMania matches ever. Regardless of if you like Cena, Shawn Michaels or not, you should love this match.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's one that's often heavily overlooked, but that's probably because when you look at the best WrestleMania matches, chances are Shawn Michaels has been in it. So I think there's a lot that people would kind of put before it. Just kind of a lot of people would put like before it. That's fair enough. But yeah, I think it is one that's slightly overlooked, and I do think it's a really solid match. Yeah. Cool. Garrett.
I would be remiss if I didn't include the love of my life, Mr. CM Punk, in one of my personal favorite Undertaker matches. It's CM Punk versus Undertaker at 29. For me, it was like the match itself was fine. They're both great workers, but it had just one of my favorite builds of any match ever. Obviously, they brought like Paul Bearer into it. The whole thing with the urn, just exceptional. And then when you've got Paul Heyman you put Paul Heyman at ringside at any match, doesn't matter what it is, you know, it makes the match just that little bit better. He's the perfect crowd reaction shot, but he's there at ringside the whole time. It was wonderful. I thought at every moment that this was finally it, and I think a lot of people did too. But no, the streak continued.
I agree. I'm hands up here then. Who thought Punk might have broke the streak? Me. Really?
For me, it was just like
I honestly didn't see it.
I thought he was being, because he was the biggest villain in all of WWE. Mm-hmm. So I thought this was really gonna be like, you know, be the most villainous thing. Instead, they decided to give the most villainous thing to the big villain guy, which is, you know, fair enough. I guess Brock Lesnar is big evil dude, so
true.
Sure.
I think in hindsight you could see why they didn't, but at the time obviously we weren't fully aware of the backstage issues Punk was having, because like one of the things he brings out in the Art of Wrestling podcast is this match and how he wrestled it like he had a death wish, and you can kind of tell that in the match. It's very full pelt, which is probably why he was able to really get one. Because I think this is easily Undertaker's last truly great match he ever had. Like, following this, obviously, it would have been the streak dropping in from there. It'd just been a casual nosedive. I'd say the only match since then that you can count as being good is the Boneyard, and even then, that's because they were able to work around.
Well, yeah, match is a very strong term for that.
Yeah, exactly. But no, solid. I'm going to save a couple of thoughts on it myself because this will also be appearing on my list later on.
Okay.
Spoilers, yes. Super. So number 3 for me, I went with The Rock versus Hulk Hogan from WrestleMania 18. One of the first, so by that point, I'd been a fan for over a year, so I remember watching this when it came out. I obviously wasn't fully aware of who Hulk Hogan was, but the build to it enough kind of got me invested. You know, the NWO had come back, he was still a heel. But I am looking back, obviously, you can see the fans didn't want him to remain as Hollywood Hogan. There was the big swell behind it, despite the fact they did everything in the build, including nearly destroying The Rock with an ambulance and a truck. So there was quite a decent build to it. But yeah, the matches, and then like easily this should have been the match that went on last of that year's Mania, and I think that's the one everyone points to. That should have been the main event because Chris Jericho and Triple H had no chance in following after that because the crowd are red hot for this, and it's one of those insane ones where it is almost literally right down the middle, even though the fact the Rock's supposed to be the good guy and Hogan's supposed to be the baddie. Like the Toronto crowd were right behind Hogan, and I'll say I'm not a big Hulk Hogan fan. I think obviously he's one of those people you can appreciate what he did for the business, and I think there are people who will be diehard fans because they grew up with him. But I just don't rate him. But I think this is easily his best match, despite the fact he was already kind of wrestling quite limited based on injuries he had. But you couldn't tell. He basically just did what he did best. He got to throw in his own 5 moves of doom. He got to Hulk up, and he got to send the crowd unhappy. And ultimately, it was like a perfect passing of the torch moment because you had one of the big stars of the 80s with the big stars of what was the big star currently then. And it was just the kind of perfect icon versus icon match as they build it.
I think that when a good wrestler is someone who plays with the crowd and is fed by the crowd's reaction. And I know that a lot of people in WWE and around the wrestling world are able to do that, are able to be like to react to what the crowd is saying and change what's happening. They're able to do it.
Yeah.
Well, they would be able to do it if they were allowed to do so. In WWE, if you're told that you have to do this and hit these story beats and do this, sure. I have The Rock and Hogan, so. You see them go out there, and when they realize that this is what the crowd is doing, Hulk, Rock is like, all right, I guess I'm gonna be a bit more of a heel. That's what the crowd needs right now, and you can just really see it in the match where it's two people in their prime. It's two of the best to ever have done it. When I don't know, they were at the point of such stardom and pinnacle of wrestling fame that they could have gone out there and had a stare down and left, and it still would have been one of the hottest matches of the night. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, this was like just as The Rock was about to really start to leave more often to go conquer Hollywood. I'm pretty sure it was after. Was it after this he left for a little while and then came back and won the belt, and then it was the whole thing with Brock? I think it was in that year. I'm sure it was. I think he left for a little while, did the belt at SummerSlam where he was the champion, and that's when Brock won the belt, and obviously it was a big switch.
I forget.
And he got booed out of the building. But yeah, this match though is just sensational. Again, I'm not the biggest Hogan fan, but I'd put this easily on one of my all-time favorite wrestling match all-time favorite list because I just remember watching it when I was younger, and I was just absolutely blown away by it. Jace, take us through yours. You're muted, mate.
Oh, the mighty have fallen.
Look, my number 3 is Edge and Christian, the Dudleys and the Hardys, WrestleMania X7 TLC.
Absolutely solid.
Because this match is one of the best matches, one of the best specialty matches that there's ever been. I don't think there'll ever be a TLC match that will ever live up to it. Ever. Doesn't matter who's in it.
No.
And it was in WrestleMania X7, which I think we can all agree is the best WrestleMania ever.
Oh yeah.
Which is why you now can't pick anything else from that one.
I know.
I'm fine with that.
All right.
Spoiler.
This was the best match on the card.
Spoiler. I mean, this would have made my list, except a different one.
Exactly. Yeah, it would have just been a different point because you just kind of. I feel like most people's number one is going to be maybe mine and your number one.
I think if that's the case, then yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Jericho Regal, right?
Of course.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool.
He's a man. Such a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I mean, if I'd not given the caveat of any match, any Mania doesn't matter if you repeat, this would have probably been my number 2, I'd imagine. But then it's because I adore WrestleMania 17 so much. But yeah, I'd say there's been solid ladder matches following this. There's been some decent TLC matches, but I don't think they'll ever top this. It was just one of the most frenetic, full-on matches you ever seen. And bear in mind, at this point, they'd already done the ladder match of the previous one, and they'd already done another TLC. And the fact that they outdid those two with this one, and this one's got probably all the best moments you can remember from these 3 teams. Obviously, the big one for me is Edge spearing Hardy off the top of the ladder, which is just looks horrific, but at the same time, you're just like, that is ridiculous but stunning.
Yeah.
Garrett, take us through number 3, please.
Well, if we're talking about feature matches and things that aren't just a singles match, then I have to bring up one of my favorite stipulations and matches and storytelling devices in all of wrestling, and that is the Money in the Bank match from WrestleMania 21. The first of its kind, yeah. Mm-hmm. Chris Jericho's invention. As I'm sure we're told many a time, not told that anymore in WWE, of course. It's just nondescript person made this thing. You had Jericho, Christian, Edge, Shelton Benjamin, Kane, and anyone else. I think that might have been it. I remember there was a run-in from Christian's mate, Tomko. Yes.
It was Edge, Benoit, Jericho, Christian, Tomko, Kane, and Shelton Benjamin.
So yes, I didn't miss anyone. It was all of those wrestlers and a
vacant.
And vacant. And you haven't unlocked this character yet. It was great. Like it's a ladder match, but it had stakes that we didn't even realize for so long. It had some amazing high spots. Shelton Benjamin was able to show himself for one of the first times, and it was great. And then not too much happened, but now he's back again, and he's a tag team champion, I guess. Although he did break up with his stable for no reason.
He did. Was this the match where Benjamin does the run up the ladder to the outside? I want to say it might be.
I want to say fuck you for putting me on the spot because I don't remember. Because I don't remember if it's that one. I remember Benoit gets color. I remember it being not too brutal, but just very fun. It was a lot of workers essentially in the match. Much the same as my fifth pick. Where it was a ladder match with just people who probably deserved a shot. Yeah. And one he who shall not be named.
Yeah. I am right in thinking they had already kind of established what the Money in the Bank was before the match, right? It was a I know there was a lot of they did it, but then afterwards the reason why it took Edge forever to cash in is because they kind of forgot about it or just didn't know what they were doing at first because it was so new.
They explained that it's a title opportunity of your choosing. I don't think they decided that it was whenever, wherever. Mm-hmm. I think it was more like, yeah, you can do it, and then but it's become the sneaky championship holder cash in thing as things have gone along. But yeah.
Fantastic.
I don't think they said maybe it wasn't a championship of your choosing, but who doesn't choose the main title? I guess
That's true.
It was just like a world title match, wasn't it? Originally,
I think so.
Any world title match.
Because that was the big thing with. I suppose, like in recent years, they just said a title match of your choice and opportunity or whatever. That's why I thought when they did the whole thing with Otis winning last year, I read somewhere he was planning to use it to cash in for the tag belts, which I think would have been very fitting. Because I mean, it doesn't always necessarily have to specify it's for the world title, and that could open up more possibilities if it's starting to get a bit stale. But,
right.
Yeah. Nope, excellent choice. So moving on to my number 2, which Garrett already brought up, which was CM Punk versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 29. Yeah, I mean, just as Garrett said, like this was hands down Taker's last great match. It was definitely CM Punk's crowning WrestleMania moment, because that's obviously one of the big things with him is he always wanted to get into the main event, never quite got onto the main event, but this match was him sort of being like the big fuck you to backstage, like completely stealing the show that night with Taker. And like Garrett said, the build was kind of right there. I think it was obviously really tragic that Paul Bearer died in the build, but they kind of made ample use of that, like wrestling likes to do. If anything they can, let's just turn it into a story. Do you ever feel like it crossed the line at any point? Because Punk was going quite heavy with the storytelling, and where some people can and do view as a bit disrespectful. What would you say?
It's completely down to what Paul Bearer would have wanted, and I can't say if that's what he would have wanted, but I would never put words in someone's mouth, but I can't imagine that he wouldn't have wanted the show to go on, and he wouldn't have wanted to still be. I can only talk for myself, and if I left such an impact that I could garner that kind of reaction, I think part of the reason it was almost okay is because Taker won, because there was a if you set up the big bad guy and then you take down the big bad guy, then that's classic storytelling that you get your comeuppance.
No,
I think it was okay. I don't think they really went too far. I don't know.
I having watched the documentary they released on him on the network, like he, again, like most people, he really Paul Bearer, William Moody really did live and breathe wrestling, so I think he would have got a kick out of the fact that we're using his death as a storyline. Right. And like you say, I think because the Undertaker was involved, I think if there was anything he wasn't comfortable with, then it would have just been nixed completely, because I've given the authority he commands. So
right
at the end of the day, there's two people involved in that story. I don't think there would have been anything Undertaker. If Undertaker didn't like, I think he wouldn't have signed off on it. To put it
right. I'd be interested to know whose idea it was, who pitched that. Whether it was just a complete a brainstorm between all of them, whether it was a Punk thing, a Heyman thing, someone from Gorilla, who knows?
Yeah. True. I do love. Oh, sorry, Jace. Go ahead. Do you have anything?
No, I was just going to say, like, I think with you saying you wonder whose idea it was, I think that would have been a combination of Heyman and Punk.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I think it purely because Punk was annoyed that he wasn't the main event, and he would have turned around and said to Heyman, because obviously we all know he's a Paul Heyman guy.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not being the main event, there's not going to be a main event. Because I think like, if I remember rightly, the crowd was dead for that main event. Like, I can't remember what it was.
It was Rock and Cena again. It was Cena and Rock too, wasn't it? Yeah. Which little wonder, because everyone was like, you did it last year and said it was a once in a lifetime.
50-50 booking, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I think between them, they would have said, like, right, well, we're going to make this the best story going into it. We're going to have the best match. We're going to do this. And I think it just would have been a combination of them. And then if the way Punk was feeling at the time, he probably would have turned around if they'd said, right, we want you to go out and make fun of Paul Bearer's death. With how he was feeling with being told how and what to say, he would have essentially been like, fuck you, and not done it.
Yeah. I think you can kind of tell with this match a little bit. I mean, obviously, when you listen to Art of Wrestling, he goes into it a lot, but I think you can kind of tell as well. Like, even though he was definitely somewhat checked out of this and he still put on a blinded match, there are points in the match where you can tell he's just taking the piss ever so slightly. Like that reaction he has when Taker sits up during the Anaconda Vice. Like, Punk's face is like far too over the top and comical. And there's like little moments of that throughout the match, which you can kind of point to and say that's just a bit too ridiculous. But
I love that.
still,
I love that shit. I can't lie.
Yeah,
I love that shit.
Yeah, I still enjoyed that for what it is as well. But yeah, absolutely superb. I would have still liked to have seen Punk end the streak even now, but you know, hindsight. I mean, it's still probably Taker's last best match. I definitely want to see Punk's best match as a WWE.
Are you trying to tell me that you didn't like Undertaker versus Rusev in a casket match at Saudi Arabia?
I mean, I don't want to break your heart.
What is your number 2, 1, 2, 1?
Well, it's Jace's number 2.
Number 2. Jace's number 2.
My number 2 is Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25.
Nice.
Which, in my opinion, this is, if you just go purely on the in-ring aspect, this is the greatest WrestleMania match of all time.
Yeah.
Like, just two, and considering they were both easily in their mid-40s at the time, having careers the length that they had, to put on a match this good, they had no business doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But they did.
Yes.
And I think, to me, Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker are each other's greatest opponents because I can't remember them ever having a bad match.
No, not really. Plus, at this point, wasn't it? They'd been hadn't they not wrestled since the casket match at the '98 Rumble when they did this one as well? Wasn't this thing? There'd been a gap. There'd been a massive gap when they'd last stepped in the ring together.
I think they'd been in the ring together, but not in a singles match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They've been like tag matches, but this just short, especially considering everything that they'd done up until this point, it was the two cornerstones of WWE at the time.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. Well, two of the cornerstones. And just hell-bent for leather, false finish. Every finish you thought, right, this is it.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's ever going to be a better WrestleMania match, purely from the in-ring perspective.
This is your number 2, though.
I think I know what his number 1's going to be. I think I know what his number 1's going to be, though. I think you're right, though. It's the closest thing Mania maybe had to a New Japan style match, but even then, it's shocking that Meltzer didn't give it the 5.
Yeah.
As well, because I think I only got 4.75 or something.
All just his opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
Until he likes a match I like, in which case, just the best opinion. That's not opinion; it's fact.
Absolutely.
What did he give Walter and Dragunov though?
Maybe a 6. Do you want me to check?
Oh well, yeah. All right, it better at least be a 6. We're waiting while you check that. I could have done that instead of saying it, but now I just made you.
When you get the please stand by thing coming down.
Only 5 stars, surprisingly. I could have sworn that got a little bit higher, but still, it's supposed to be his highest score.
5 stars is peasant, man.
It's actually me.
It's not really. He just he has given above 5 before Kenny.
See, that was the thing. Me and my mate looked through a thing where it was all of his highest star ratings. I'm pretty sure all of the ones that go above 5 feature Kenny. I'm sure they do.
Where he's given above 5 before. Oh, hold on. No.
Yeah, you can search that one.
Okay, I will.
And we'll wait for you this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that mean I have to Google something next?
Yeah, go on.
How big is Batista's dick?
Steamboat Flair 6.
Oh,
89. Yeah, I knew there was one or two before. 1994, there was a Budokan show, Masara against Kawada. Other than that, no.
it's basically mostly
answer.
Kenny. Any match with Kenny will get 6. Because did he give
anything? All right. Okay. So yeah, six and above is Steamboat Flair, and then the rest of them are Kenny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he gave it to him and Hangman against the Bucks, right? They got a 6, I think.
Kenny Okada. That's a 6, 6.25, and a 7.
Yep.
Hangman Bucks, and they got 6. Yeah. That's it.
Fair enough. Yeah. So basically, if you Kenny Omega, Devin Meltzer loves you a lot.
Well, he also has a 5.75, if that is anything.
What was he doing?
if you
5.75.
Yeah, exactly.
If you get highest average though, it's probably still Will Ospreay.
For like most 5-star ratings.
Well, if you like, I'm sure if you took all of Kenny Omega's matches, there are probably some that drag it, because that's only 1 7. It probably is dragged down by like some 2s or 3s here and there, whereas Ospreay, I'm pretty sure, is kind of is the teacher's pet of Meltzer.
Suppose I'd have to look at it all time, because I guess people like people like Kenta Kobashi and Misawa from the 90s, they still hold the record for some of the most 5-star ratings or matches of the year as well.
Right.
This could be a whole interesting thing for another episode, but I can't do math very well, so you guys will have to help. Garrett, what was your number 2?
Oh God, I'm thrown around here. Where is my... no, that's my number 1. My number 2 is... have I already said that number though? Bollocks. I wanted to get a tag match in there of some kind, but I just don't want to pick the TLC, obviously, because that. I'm gonna go Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle 21. Have I already said 21? I haven't said 21, have I?
I don't think
you said the first money in the bank.
Yeah,
that's 21. Fuck. Okay. All right, then I will say he.
I love the preparation here, guys. I love it.
I will say he who shall not be named against. Wait, have I already said 20?
No, I don't think you have.
I will say he who shall not be named. Shawn Michaels, Triple H. In just a fucking tremendous match.
Oh yes.
Benoit goes from winning the Rumble to just what would still be one of the most iconic photos of all time in wrestling if it wasn't tainted.
I mean, just that Mania in general, that finish was just like, again, like you say, iconic. The fact it was like him and Guerrero, 2 people who were told at one point they would never be world champion, and there they both are, sharing the stage as best friends as the world champions. But again, it's something WWE can never, ever use, which is incredibly tragic.
Yeah, it's one of those matches where they talk about like height a lot. They say this is one of the ones that gave a lot of people opportunities. Mm-hmm. He's 5'10". He's still like towers above me, or would tower above me. Currently, he's in hell.
Fair enough.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Definitely not wrong.
You're looking down on him now.
But it's one of those matches where they talk about giving, the underdog and the smaller guy an opportunity, and it's. I mean, you also have the Game, and you got HBK in there. So, what more do you want? I had to get Shawn Michaels on my list, Mr.
WrestleMania.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, it was
Mr. WrestleMania and Mr. Losers at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is his win-loss record? Is it? It's
something like 11. It's something like 11-6.
Yeah.
Sorry, 6 wins, 11 losses.
I can believe that.
I think the only person who's lost more at WrestleMania is Triple H.
Oh well, so the best buds are on even keel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something they can share together in NXT. Right, lads. Any honourable mentions you want to run through? I've got a big ass list.
My honourable mention is the rest of the card of WrestleMania 17.
Oh yeah, just all of that.
Just have that.
I've tried to go with like a host of different matches for different reasons. Anytime they told a good story, which would be a lot of underdog stuff, like Kofi winning, Bryan winning, everything like that. I'd say like the first women's main event, I'd have to throw on the list. Annoyingly, you know, WWE, they don't shove women down your throat or anything like that, or any kind of like they don't care about progressive culture, but it is a very capitalist like women. WWE invented women, but regardless, like I remember the finish being a bit botched, but the match itself solid, and they managed to get, you know, the man in there, the man Becky Lynch, who was one of the greatest stories being told in wrestling at the time, and one of the hottest things going on. Then you had probably the greatest women's wrestler when it all is said and done. We will see, Charlotte Flair, and then you also had, you know, that sort of celebrity style, but also legit Ronda Rousey. And I for one absolutely adore Ronda Rousey in the ring. I think she's fucking amazing. Yeah. You know, the only comparison I would say is to a Kurt Angle type who just comes in and just gets it. There's a lot, like, you know, to work on, but she's bloody amazing. She's not there anymore. So, but yeah, those are mine. Those are mine.
Fair enough.
I agree with Garrett, the first women's main event. Then I've also got Sasha, Becky, and Charlotte from WrestleMania 32. It was a fantastic match. All three of the Undertaker, Triple H matches, including the one at X7 in which I think it's is it Mike Chioda takes the tiniest little push. He's on the deck. On the deck for 20 minutes.
It's gonna be like the longest ref bump ever.
Yeah. Then Undertaker, Randy Orton, which was for me, that was Randy Orton's coming out party.
Good for him.
It really cemented him.
His coming out party.
You know what I mean? That was when it was like, he can actually hang with the big boys. He's not just having
what party are you talking about here?
I mean, this is a common expression, Garrett.
He's coming out of the closet as an amazing wrestler.
Okay. I now understand. Good for him.
Again, the rest of X7.
Yeah, we'll just put that whole card on there. Yeah. I'm just going to quickly rattle through a bunch of mine. I wrote down quite a lot.
Oh, sorry, one more. Savage Steamboat.
Which was going to kick off mine. So yeah, I agree. So I mean, looking back at the early ones, there's not a lot I would pick out. But yeah, Savage Steamboat, absolutely, because that still holds up today. Hogan and Warrior at WrestleMania 6. I think that's the best match either of those two ever had, especially the Warrior. That was his best match. He never got better after that. Bret Hart versus Owen Hart at WrestleMania 10. Ramon and Michaels WrestleMania 10. And then there's a big ass gap. TLC 2. Garrett's number 2 of the main event at WrestleMania 20. Michaels Angle. Michaels Undertaker. Rock and John Cena at WrestleMania 28. It's a shame that they had to do the follow-up, but there you go. Daniel Bryan and Triple H. Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton versus Batista at WrestleMania 30. Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns at 31. Kurt Angle, Ronda Rousey versus Triple H and Stephanie McMahon at 34. Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins at 36. I really do rate that match. And as a little extra bonus, I put the Boneyard and Firefly Funhouse matches as well.
Fair enough.
Yep. Fair enough. All right, I think
so. Greg, for our number 1.
Hang on. I think because you and me have got the same number 1, we should let Jace go first.
All right.
I think that's fair. Jace, you go first.
Okay, my number 1, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 26.
I had a feeling you were going to go that. So you prefer the second one then?
I prefer the second one. I think purely, like I said when I said it, I think 25 is the better in-ring match, but I think the story that they were telling leading into 26 just edges it.
I think that's why I prefer it as well. Story-wise, it was perfect.
Because the first 25, there wasn't really anything apart from the streak on the line, but then this one, when it was the streak versus the career, when it was really when you didn't know, because you couldn't see the streak ending, because it was just this thing that was there. It seemed like it was never going to end. But then Shawn Michaels didn't really seem like he was slowing down, like he was going to retire. So it could have gone either way, and I think that just added a bit more question to the match of which is going to end.
100%. I mean, when you look at, I think it was 2 years prior when it was Michaels and Flair, we all kind of knew Flair was going to be going out then. And it was still done perfectly. Like, it was still plenty of promotion and great storytelling. But you're right with this one. I don't think anyone suspected Michaels was actually looking to retire that year, because like you're saying, he'd come back and have this storied return. Was still wrestling at the top of his game. I think he'd been taking a few long breaks here and there in those last couple of years, but was still ultimately like one of the top workers within the company, and was still having tremendous match after tremendous match. So you're right, it legit, like, I don't think anyone really knew which direction it was going to go in, and that's what can kind of really make a match feel special, when you really just have no clue about the outcome. Yeah,
and I'm sure, but things like what they did with this one compared to the Michaels Flair is, I don't know whether you remember the build, but Flair had done something to piss off Mr. McMahon. He said, right, the next time you lose a match, you retire. And so it was this build. He was beating like Randy Orton, he was beating Edge, he was beating all these people, and then it was this, right, well, it's Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And you were like, right, well, that's
I thought you were going to say Baron Corbin. But he's the perfect person to retire people, as you know.
Oh yeah.
That's still what makes me want to cry. Baron Corbin retired Kurt Angle.
It's the fact that they didn't really do anything with it, you know.
Nope.
No.
They haven't done anything with the King of the Ring. Why haven't they done it again? I don't know.
I mean, that's just the story of his career. Like, they give him stuff and just don't do anything with him.
Well,
he's one of 2 people not to successfully catch it.
They broke up the Hurt business, and now Bobby Lashley has allied himself with Baron Corbin. That's the story right now for Mania. Why? I don't know, Greg. I don't know.
They turn and Lashley face, aren't they?
I was saying this in the chat. I as much as I would love Drew as the champion, I actually want to see Lashley retain and go on a monster heel tear with it, because it's fine. He's finally bringing us the TNA Bobby Lashley, like the good Bobby Lashley, and I just hope it isn't a transitional thing, which it looks like it probably might be. I don't know. Been surprised before at Mania.
I'd like Drew to have it again. I don't think I'd like it now. I'd like it long time when they do a British pay-per-view. Why not?
Rebellion?
Makes more sense to me. Huh?
Rebellion?
Insurrection?
Yeah, Jace knows what I'm talking about.
We'll get a WrestleMania.
We won't.
We're getting one.
We live in hope.
We're having it.
We live in hope.
Well,
Come on, Wembley Stadium. No, terrific.
Park.
That'd be amazing. WrestleMania in the Toon. I mean, rumor is McMahon did try to buy Newcastle United at one point.
That rumor comes around about every 3 or 4 years.
I wish he had. It would have been tremendous.
Would have been brilliant just having like a Newcastle United versus the WWE. Just like Kane, The Undertaker, Triple H. Just
whenever they come to the UK, it's just always Newcastle players ringside.
Yeah. bottle of Nuki Brown on a pole match.
I'd
Tremendous.
watch that.
Should we say our number one at the same time?
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
The
The
Rock
gimmick
versus
battle
the-
royal.
I knew it. Good choice. Good
It's The
choice.
Rock versus Austin.
Steve Austin. Like the match that got me into wrestling, and spoiler when we do our all-time favorite match list, it is my number one favorite match of all time. Again, I obviously this might have been watching wrestling, but this is the first match that like completely blew me away. Not just in terms of just it's one of those matches where they had. Fair enough, the story's a little bit all over the place. Like the whole thing with Deborah being the Rock's manager for a little bit, which just didn't really go anywhere. That just kind of petered out. But everything else in it fit perfectly. And it's one of those matches where what I love about it is you can tell there is a proper blood feud here by the fact like before they even began the bell rings, they're just throwing punches straight away, and it feels like a proper scrappy brawl. You see so many of these feuds now where it's meant to be a blood feud, and bell rings, and instead of just throwing punches, it's just lock up, chain wrestle. It's like this felt like how it should. It felt like two people just trying to kill each other over the title belt.
Well, the thing is, Greg, it's my way or the highway, and this match has just some of the greatest package. It has the best wrestling like promo package ever. It's the one you point to. It was so hype as a kid. I don't know how many times I probably saw it on like a friend's VHS tape. It was the match that we'd always play whenever we were playing a video game of it. We'd just always be like, all right, well, who's The Rock and who's Austin?
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine from when I was a child, we used to play a game where we'd bounce on the trampoline with wrestling figures and have them fight, and then they bounce off. The day one of us got The Rock and the other had Austin, that was the whole day. That was the whole day. It was just trying to recreate that because it's just the greatest match in WrestleMania history.
Absolutely.
And that's why Dave Meltzer rated it. That's why I'm not going to mention what Dave Meltzer rated it.
Well, what did he give it? Just out of
I don't know.
interest.
Hold on, I'll find it.
Find out. But I agree. Like, I think I've seen this is probably the wrestling match I've seen the most, and I never get bored or tired of it. There's just something. It's very. I don't know. Usually too much, but like lightning in a bottle type match. Like it's just. Considering the rest of this card, and by this point the fans would see because this WrestleMania 17's got a lot of matches on the card as well. You'd think the crowd would be nearly worn out for this main event, but luckily, the crowd are red hot going into it, and they continue throughout. And a lot of people point this to being the kind of the full stop to the Attitude Era, and if it is, I think fair enough. And I even don't like mind the finish. I think at the time I didn't really know the legacy of Stone Cold, so even as a kid, I thought it was like one of the greatest, just dastardly things I'd ever seen. So I still have a lot of love and respect for it. I don't think it necessarily needs to be changed. I think that's why it kind of had one of the sort of perfect encapsulations at the end that Austin had to side with the devil, as they say, in order to win the title.
Yeah, it has a 4.5.
Not surprised. No, that's solid. And yeah, other things about, Paul Heyman and JR in commentary, who will forever be my favorite commentary team. Love them so much. But yeah, tremendous. I love this match to death. Any final thoughts there, boys?
Yeah, if this year's WrestleMania is shit, Vince needs to retire.
On paper, this is one of the better looking cards I think I've seen.
Yeah,
in recent memory.
There's been a lot of years where it's been like, oh, this card looks amazing.
True.
Well, to be honest with you guys, I don't care for any matches that are coming up other than Walter Ciampa.
Although isn't that on? That's going to be on TV, not on the network.
I don't care. Don't care.
I need to find out how to watch it.
Don't care.
I think the matches I'm looking forward to the most of this year's WrestleMania are Sasha Bianca and Asuka Rhea.
Ooh, Asuka Rhea, I think might be my top choice.
Like them two matches that just got the best builds Even though Asuka and bloody Ripley have only been in the ring once.
Oh my god, that's 2 of my draft picks fighting again for a belt. Every time. I'm fucking just stalemate on points again. For fuck's sake.
Oh shit! I haven't counted my points for about 6 weeks.
Me too. I need to come up with an actual. I'm gonna make a spreadsheet and come up with like. I'm gonna come up with I'm literally gonna link it to like, Internet Fight database or whatever it is, and just have it automatically fill in for me.
You have to teach me how to do that because I'm literally just adding it all.
No, I want you to add up. Fuck off.
I'm sure last time I looked at my points, I was on something like 53, and I have no idea what I'm on now.
I have no idea because I had like a little flick through and I was like, I don't know what your scores are, so I have no metric of like, am I actually just doing awful? Probably.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks since I've added mine up, but it's getting close to triple digits, I think.
We figured out something we're gonna do for Mania, at least maybe night 1.
Well, I think we've been spitballing. I think we're going to try and do a live stream for them. Obviously, just depending on baby duties.
Depending on the baby. Depending on your new job.
Oh, new job. Nice.
Oh, I just started yesterday on a new job.
So we're all working.
I wasn't supposed to though. I was just joining them for like a meet the team call, and they were like, "All right, we start today." I was like, "Okay, all right."
Sweet. Well done.
I now work at a company. It's a CIC, so community interest company, where it connects dads with their kids, which is ironic. I guide others to a treasure I cannot possess.
Oh, bless you. Well, I think we'll spitball some ideas about what we would want to do for Mania week in particular. I think we're going to try and get some live streams done, certainly for the big show itself. But until then, if you want to find us on the channels to see what we announce, you can find us with the Bearhug Club podcast, Facebook and YouTube, Bearhug Club Pod on Instagram, and Bearhug Club on Twitter. Thanks again for joining us, everybody, and we'll catch you next time. Bye bye.
Auf Wiedersehen.